All right, Kris, we're on. Welcome to Spatial Slipstream. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
It's
thank
a
you for
pleasure
being
to be
on.
here.
Absolutely. Pleasure to have you. So, so a couple of weeks ago, you sent me a little bio about yourself. So, tell the listeners a little bit more about what got you into tarot, and let's start there.
Well, I come from a starseed family,
Okay,
and
I was going to
for
ask you
those
about
of
that.
you that may or may not know, I can say the definition of a starseed family is more of a spiritually based family rather than a religious type of, family, traditional where you go to church and, in my case, I grew up Catholic. I went to a Catholic grammar school. And you know, I was taught like, okay, yeah, you go to church on Sunday, you do your communion, maybe even confession here and there, things like that. But in like the background, I was also taught by my mother that, about the soul, about meditation, about prayer, about developing yourself spiritually. And I also my on my mother's side of the family, my mom's Cuban, uh, they were pretty much like I would say, oh, I just messed up my camera. Sorry about that. Spiritualists. And I have an ancestor, my great grandmother. She would do these seances, and this was
Wow.
back in Cuba. I think it was when they lived in Florida, because they actually that side of my family used to live in New York, and then they ended up moving to Florida. I think it was in the 80s. And she was, she had this amazing power. She was very psychic, and she could just talk to somebody on the phone and then just start saying, all this stuff, like, just predicting stuff and
Hmm.
just telling them things that it's like, okay, how did she know that? But she was a medium. She was a medium. She was a psychic. Uh, she wasn't really she wasn't like so much of a healer. I had other family members that were more like healers, and I still do. But I'm talking about like the older generation of my family, the ones that have passed. Uh, so she was really the one that was the tarot card reader. And I didn't find that out until maybe a few years ago. I didn't know that. And she was actually taught by gypsies in Cuba.
Wow, that's
And
interesting.
like I didn't even know gypsies existed in Cuba.
Yeah, you know what? And
Uh,
like I mentioned that my family comes from there too, and I've never heard of gypsies coming from Cuba.
yeah, I
Yeah.
I don't know. They must have immigrated
Yeah.
there somehow. I don't know. Um, so yeah, and to this day I have my aunt. She lives in Florida, and she's like taken on the family business, as I call it. She's actually an acupuncturist, and she's a Reiki master. I learned Reiki from her. She has her own place where she does the healing. It's in Dunellen, Florida, and it's actually called it's the Inner Transformation Center. It's out in the country, and I still haven't gone there, and I really have to make a trip out there. Um, but I've seen pictures. My mom went out there. My sister went out there already, and it's an amazing place. She has this room full of crystals. She has a this it's like this dome, and it's made out of tachyon crystals, which is actually
Wow.
a Palladian technology.
Wow.
And I've actually held when I the last time I was in Florida, um, when for my grandmother's memorial because she passed,
Mm.
which she was also that's actually on my grandfather's side, and she was also a medium. Um, I my aunt gave me this tachyon crystal, and I could feel the energy coming from it, really powerful. So yeah, I kind of have like on my mother's side, I have an interesting like family background. On my dad's side, which my dad he's from Croatia. They're not, they're more traditional, but they're not even religious. Like they're, like Christian Catholic or whatever, but they're not really that religious, and they don't really are really into that stuff. I don't know. They don't like acknowledge it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate because some people that I've talked to, have said like, "Oh, well, I'm the black sheep of the family." My family, I don't even talk to my family. They don't even believe in that stuff.
Right.
It's very hard for them, but like I was fortunate to grow up in a family that embraces that, and that's what we are coming into right now, into the new age, and more people are becoming aware and awakening. And even I feel like even more so now than, let's say 4 years ago or 2 years ago.
Right.
um so it's a pretty I'm getting like chills right now.
Yeah.
And I have my heat on, and I'm getting chills. I'm like, whew, spirits coming through. um So it's a real amazing time to be alive. I mean, I think it's
I agree.
difficult but amazing at the same time.
Right. I agree 100%. I totally feel like we're on the verge of something, if that makes any sense. Whether that's going to be something good or bad, I don't know. I think it's going to be good, but I think we're really on the verge of some type of awakening here. Humanity is really on path to like some golden age. I think people are waking up out of a long slumber, and this goes besides politics or anything. There has been a huge change in political waves, but I think people are hungry for knowledge. Like, do you get that sense?
Yeah,
No.
I get that sense. I mean, I feel it from in myself, that I feel like, okay, I want to know the truth. Like I want to I'm sick of being lied to, and it's just not the truth of, as far as like somebody telling you what the truth is, like finding out the truth for yourself.
Exactly, exactly. That's very well put. And yeah, I definitely feel it too. Like we're all tired of being lied to, and we all just want to know the truth, the good or bad. We
Exactly,
just want to know
exactly.
the truth. It reminds me so much of the movie The Matrix. It's like you can either live in ignorance in some kind of pod, or you can live some fantasy existence. I don't think anybody wants to live that fantasy existence anymore. I think people
No,
just
they
want to know
don't.
the cold hard truth.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's great though. So you also mentioned in your bio that you had studied tarot with a Shala Yardley. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I studied with her, and at that point of my evolution with the tarot cards, because I started reading tarot cards in high school, and I really didn't have a sense of the meaning of each card, but I did it through my intuition. Like I was able to read the cards through my intuition, and that's really what the tarot cards are. They're just a means of tapping into your intuition, whether you know the meanings of each card
Yeah.
verbatim, that doesn't really matter.
Right, right. Right. I'm still in the process of reading that book, Holistic Tarot by Benabel Wen. Fantastic. And that's really one of the first things that she goes into is how tarot could be a way to tap into your subconscious. And you're just interpreting certain situations through the pictures that come out. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, unfortunately, tarot has kind of a bad stigma, maybe not so much anymore. People think it's black magic or it's satanic. It's not in the slightest bit any of that. It's really just a way to interpret a certain situation by what pictures come out and what you get out of those pictures. Would you think that that's correct?
Yeah, I definitely think that's correct. I mean, it all has to do with your intention. Uh, it has to do with the person that is interpreting uh the cards. And
Right.
this can you can relate this to anything, even astrology,
Hmm.
even if you're reading a crystal ball, it all has to do with your intention, your vibration. If you're on a higher vibration, if you're on a lower vibration, you might attract, something on a lower level. So it's really recommended if you're going to do something like that, if you're gonna, even if you're doing a pendulum, you need to really ground yourself and keep your vibration high.
Right, right, right. So as far as the tarot goes, there's two different types of cards. There's 22 major arcana cards, correct?
Yes,
And how many minor? 55?
I think so.
Okay.
I forgot.
Yeah, I know.
Honestly.
Me too. Me too. So cards zero, because it starts with a fool at 0 to 22. Those are
Oh, I
the
love the pool.
me too, me too. And that's describing the fool's journey, correct? So
Yes.
what's the main difference between the major and the minor? Obviously, there's way more minor cards, and then there's suits, and so
Yeah.
explain that a little bit to the listeners.
Okay, so the major cards are like major events
Hmm.
that are definitely going to happen. Like there's pretty much nothing you can do. It's kind of more like written in stone. And they can affect things worldwide. Uh, so yeah, so that's the difference. Now the minor cards, they are subject to change. See, it's really difficult when you're reading tarot, especially now because the timelines are changing, to really say, okay, for sure this is going to happen. But when the major arcana cards appear, I would say 9 times out of 10 it is going to happen. If it's a minor card, it's subject to change.
Would you say that the minor cards are more personal to the person asking the questions as opposed to the major?
Yeah, it could
Okay.
be personal.
Okay. Also, I did mean to ask you also, do you also read cards in reverse?
Typically I don't
Okay,
look
yeah,
through
a
them.
lot of people don't actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a deck. I just don't like to read them in reverse. It just really throws me off. Eventually, I could learn, but I mean, I know some people that have read only the major cards for people, and there are other people that read only the minors. So that's one thing about tarot. It's very personalized. You can kind of just read it whichever way you want. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Cool.
Like I said, it's your intention. It has to
Right.
do all with your intention.
Right. Right. So, so you were in high school when you first started. tarot, what was your first deck? Because there's so many of them. I mean, the traditional Rider Waite, of course, is the most popular, but is that what you started off with? And do you
Yeah.
recommend a beginner to start with the Rider Waite?
Yes, it's what I started off with, and it's what I use now.
Okay. Okay.
Like m mostly, that's mostly what I use now. I mean, I have other decks, but I just mostly stick to the right away.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the most familiar of all of them, I guess, right? And I've always been fascinated with the imagery and the pictures. That's one thing, but and even in the book, it mentions how people are afraid of the quote unquote bad cards, the devil, the tower. Uh, how do you set someone's mind at ease that when those cards come out, it's not necessarily something horrible?
To freak out about.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the devil, I remember in class, Shala would say the devil is more like the kind of like the medicine, I forgot what she said, the medicine man or the medicine wheel. Um, so it's just kind of like an opportunity. She would describe it as an opportunity to like work on ourselves and work on the darker aspect of ourselves. Um, And the tower, it's kind of like the same similar thing because the tower just, it's like everything just falls apart, but you need it to fall apart because if you want to start fresh, you need things to fall apart
That's
and
right.
you need things to
That's
collapse.
right.
Because
And
how else are you going to start something fresh? How else are you
exactly.
going to, you
Exactly.
know, find that path, that new path in life?
Right, right. I think the card that people are most afraid of is the death card. And it's actually not a bad card. Well, like I said, there's not a bad
No,
card.
it's not.
Death is represents a new beginning, a rebirth.
Right.
Yeah. But people are terrified
Or
of these
change.
or
It
change. Correct.
represents
It could be
change.
change. Correct. But yeah, people are very intimidated when these cards come out. Like, oh my God, I'm going to die if I get the death card. No,
Yeah, no.
no, not at all. So, you have a YouTube channel. Um,
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. When did you first start doing the YouTube channel? And
Oh my God, it's been a while now.
mm,
I don't know. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? Might have been, or
okay,
2 years ago. I can't even remember now.
yeah,
It's been a while.
yeah,
Um, and I started it because I met my friend Caroline
hmm
uh in class in Ashal's class.
oh,
And we started like collaborating and she said, I have a YouTube channel, and then I started my YouTube channel. And so we've been, collaborating and she lives in the UK.
hmm
Um, but it's like she's become like one of my closest friends. It's just so crazy how she lives so far away.
Well, yeah, you have that
She lives
connection.
outside of
Yeah,
London
yeah.
and she's
Wow,
become like one of my closest friends. It's crazy.
that's awesome. So, I mean, what else would you have to say about tarot? I mean, like, what are your past experiences? Have you ever had feedback of people coming back to you and saying, "Oh my God, you were so right on all of this"?
Yeah, I've had a couple people come back to me. I've had somebody said to me, well, it's actually the review is actually on my website. Uh, and I've had, somebody say to me, I did a reading for someone and I told them about their soulmate. And I actually described their soulmate. And then it took maybe about a year for them to actually find their soulmate. And in the review, he said, that my description was like to the T and I was spot on.
Wow, wow,
And uh, that also, I have some other, and I can't remember like what the review said, but I have some reviews on my website.
that's cool, pretty cool. Do you utilize a spirit guide?
Yes, I have I have one spirit guide. Um, he's actually a Native American
Oh, wow.
Indian, and I call him the medicine man.
Hmm.
And he has appeared to my family members. He's
Wow.
appeared to my mother. He's appeared to my sister. Um, and I've kind of looked into, like why is he my spirit guide? Um, and he was my brother in a past life.
Wow.
And I've gone to get my cards in the past. I've gone to get my cards read. Like those botanicas.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know them all too well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And every time I would go, they would always say, "Oh, you have a Native American Indian with you." They would
Wow.
always tell me this.
Wow.
And I actually one night I saw him, and he was like this really tall. He was very tall. He's very tall and long hair. And my sister, this was a while ago. This was back when, before I had my daughter, before, I was in my current relationship. It was
Hmm.
actually after my divorce. I had my sister staying with me, and she was sleeping in my living room. And the next morning she said, "Oh, I saw I saw this Native American dude standing standing at the foot. He was standing at the foot of her bed."
Wow.
And she goes, "Oh, he had like like a red face, I guess. I don't know." Yeah, so I mean, when they start appearing to family members, that means that, they're trying to say, "Hey, look, I'm real." You know, they're just trying to I guess, I don't know, prove
Just,
to you that they
yeah,
are
it's
real,
trying to
not
just,
imagined.
yeah, they're trying to just make you aware that they're there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, exactly.
That's
And
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that
So,
that you mentioned that your what is it, your mom was Cuban, right?
yeah.
Yeah, Cubans are very they're very superstitious people, and they really like that spirituality. And they're into like tarot cards and stuff like that. My grandmother was supposedly a psychic. I didn't know her very long. She died when I was I think 12 or 13, something like that. She lived in Florida, so we only got to see them like once a year. But from what I understand, she was very gifted and saw a lot of different things. And me being as a kid, I didn't know much about that kind of stuff. I just thought that she was crazy. But she may not have been crazy. She may not have been that crazy. It was my mom's mother. But supposedly she was very gifted, and I had heard stories about, like, when she was on her deathbed. She died of cancer.
Oh,
She would speak in other voices sometimes, like on her deathbed. But yeah, it's just weird. I never witnessed anything like that, but it's just things that I heard here and there, and I just kind of like never asked. But yeah, it's interesting that you do have that Cuban background, because we're a people very full of spirituality. Even though most Cubans are Roman Catholic, I used to be. I'm not anymore. But that's really interesting. So let's talk about like other types of forms of divination. You had mentioned Reiki. Now I don't know much about it, but isn't that some type of healing that you do, like a spiritual healing, or is it physical healing, or could it be both?
yeah, it's both physical, spiritual. It's basically putting your hands on certain points of the body and clearing out the negative energy, clearing out the chakras. Everyone has chakras, energy centers in the body. And it's a very simple technique. It's very simple.
Yeah,
It takes about
yeah, I used to work with a woman whose her son had broken his leg and he had like totally like lost all his confidence and started kind of like being depressed about it and like kind of shut down. And she was taking him to doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists, and nothing seemed to be working. And she took him to a Reiki healer, and he is the only thing that helped this poor kid. So yeah, that's interesting. I guess she must have, laid hands on him and did something to like ease him, and like maybe it was a spiritual issue. Have you ever come across anything like that, like where somebody's kind of like suffering through depression and Reiki seems to help them?
I yes, I haven't done Reiki on somebody in a while, but I'm just remembering a while back. Uh, I had a client that I did help. They were suffering from depression. I also had a friend that I did Reiki on. This was all, this is maybe 2008, and I had this experience, and he actually had the experience as well, where we saw like it's almost like we were, how can I put this? It's almost like going to another dimension, and we saw in our mind's eye, it's kind of like nothing existed. And I describe it as like a 0 point. And that also exists in quantum physics. There's a 0 point where it's like nothing exists and the only thing that really exists is God. And that's where I actually had my first awakening. That moment I experienced my first awakening. And well, not really my first, but an awakening, I should say. And we actually got a download. We both got a download and we started seeing numbers. We started seeing 777 777 777. And I was like, what? It didn't make sense to me at the time. And I called my aunt and I said to her, I said, what what is that? What does this mean? Why is these numbers why is seven so significant? And she said, oh, that's my number. And I also got the download. It, children, it's like it kept going through my mind over and over again. Children of light, like 777, children of light. And all right, fast forward to 2020, what did we all go through?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And I put two and two together and I'm like, all right, children of light, this is who we are. Star seeds, the 144,000,
Hmm.
that they mention in the Bible,
Yep.
you know, this is who I am, this is who we are, and this is why we're here. For this moment to go through this and help others in the process of ascending and you know progressing, helping them to helping them with their progression of their soul and to awaken. So it all made sense. um so yeah, that was my Reiki experience to answer your question.
Wow, pretty cool. So where do you see like we both agree that, we're on the verge of some type of golden age, like an enlightenment. Where do you see that happening and when do you think that's gonna actually start? I think it's already started, but how fast do you think that's going to progress? What does your intuition tell you?
I agree. I think that it's already started.
Mm,
Uh, I I think that it's gonna go pretty fast. Um, as far as timing, I don't know. Maybe, I mean, I think if we fast forward 2 years into the future, I think that we're gonna see it's there's gonna be a difference
I agree.
to the way things are now.
I was also thinking about 2 years or so, but it is progressing pretty fast. Um, do you have experience in other tools of divination, like perhaps runes? You had also mentioned crystal balls. So have you ever read into a crystal
No,
ball? Mhm.
not I do use my pendulum,
Oh,
but not
okay.
crystal balls.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what the pendulum is.
It's so simple.
Mhm.
I can show you my pendulum.
Oh, great. I've seen them. I've just never.
My pendulum. It's
Okay. Yeah.
got an amethyst crystal at the end,
Okay.
and I made my own chart, like the alphabet, and I just use it. I get messages. I use it to speak to my spirit guides, and that's pretty much it. It's very
I-
simple.
Is there something that you lay on the table that that points to, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just a piece of paper
Oh,
with the
okay.
alphabet on it. That's it.
Oh, interesting. How about runes?
I never got into that.
Oh,
I never
okay.
got into
Interesting. All
what.
right. So I'll leave it open to, whatever you want to discuss. Anything else you want to add or tell us a little bit more about tarot? Oh, actually, you know what? Come to think of it, I did want to ask you this. So I'm sorry, the minor arcana are split into four different suits. What are the differences between the suits? I know that I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the pentacles represents earth, right?
Yeah, earth, money,
Swords is air.
hmm air,
Wands is
communication.
okay. Okay. What are the so tell us what the differences are. Like, I mean, the imagery on each suit is somewhat alike, but yet very different.
So yeah, the swords represent communication. They can also represent like written communication. Uh, the pentacles represent money. It could represent the earth, health, sometimes depending on the card. The wands represent, they're more associated with fire, with action, creativity. And the cups are represent water, also emotion, intuition as well. But again, it's like depending on the card, depending on how they're aspected, depending on what card is near that card.
Okay. This actually brings up another question I had for you. So there are different spreads that one can use
Mhm.
to interpret certain questions in certain situations, and there's many different types. Um, explain to the listeners what exactly a tarot spread is and what spreads should a beginner start with. What spreads are good for certain questions. Like I know that there's one that's specifically for yes and no answers. And then there's also your daily spread, which could be one card or three cards. So tell us a little bit about the differences in the spreads.
I mean, the differences, I don't really use like different spreads a whole lot. Uh, I mean, yeah, there's the Celtic cross spread. There's the Kachina knife, which I use a lot. Uh, And just each position represents something, it could represent the present, it could represent, the past, the future, outside influences. It could represent, if you're looking for, like advice, it different positions represent different meanings. Well, it's all depending on the spread that you're using. I mean, I just make my own spreads, honestly. I don't go by,
Oh, wow.
spreads
Okay.
that are in a book.
Okay.
Sometimes I do make my own spreads.
See, again, tarot is very personalized. You just, work it the way it feels good to you and what seems right to you. That's one thing I do like about it. But for a beginner, what would be a good spread for them to start? I know the Celtic Cross seems to be the most popular, but it does involve what, 8 cards, I believe? I think it's eight or
I think so.
nine. Okay. So, I
Mhm.
mean, what,
Yeah, it's 9.
okay. What spread would you recommend that a beginner start with? Just a simple 3 card pass. A 3 card spread is basically past, present, and future,
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
I would recommend that. Like
Okay.
just and then build your way up from there.
Right. What I've seen a lot of people do is they do the simple 3 card spread, past, present, future, and then what they do is they add another 3 cards, like either under it or below it, to like expand on that, which actually could be a 9 card spread. So instead of just relying on 3 cards, the imagery of 3 cards, you just kind of keep building on that. So
Right.
I think that's a great idea, actually. And it also does help build the intuition, because I think the more pictures you see, the better, I guess, to a point. You don't want to see too many. But then there's also spreads that are like daily spreads. Like somebody will pull 1 card in the morning, and that'll be like their daily reading, and they'll interpret like what may happen in the day or what they could expect, and they'll just kind of like build on that. So you make your own spread, and is that the one that you use primarily, regardless of what type of question you may be asking or somebody may be asking? Like you basically stick with your own spread.
Yeah, I used the Kachina knife, which is not, I didn't create that. There's also another spread that I use that I did create. It is the white, it's like my I call it my my white hawk spread,
Okay.
and it's just in the shape of a bird.
Oh, wow. Wow. So what spread did you first start using? Was it the 3 card?
In the very beginning,
Hmm.
I really didn't use a spread. I just
Okay. Just kind of
cards.
okay, cool.
I Yeah, I didn't have any training, so
Yeah.
I just did my own thing.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I've got my rider weight. I actually have a couple of decks, and I really think that it's a fascinating field. And again, I can't reiterate enough that it's not black magic, it's not satanic, anything like that. Just because the devil card appears in the deck of tarot cards doesn't mean that it's evil. You had agreed with me. There's no bad cards, there's no great cards. It's just how you interpret a certain situation. And where do you see the future of tarot card reading? Do you think that it's increasing in interest? Do you think it's kind of decreasing? And also, what do you think about digital cards, like apps on your phone? And I know a lot of people, I have one myself. It doesn't hit me like the actual physical card in your hand. What do you think about that?
I think that tarot card reading has gotten, more popular, especially since COVID. And I think it is growing, because people's intuition, people are becoming more intuitive. So I think it is growing in popularity. As far as the digital cards, yeah, I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know
I
how accurate
I
that
feel
is.
the same way. I mean, the app that I have is called Labyrinthos. It's actually a really good source to learn, but it's just that you try to tap on the cards and it's just not the same like seeing it right in front of you. So, but I guess it's a good learning tool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't read off of it, but it's
No.
definitely a great learning tool. All right, Chris, I think that's pretty much all that I have. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or?
I just want to, I guess I can just promote,
Yeah, please go right ahead.
let's do some promotion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, please go to my YouTube channel, Divine Light Readings by Kris 777. That's my handle. And also my friend's YouTube channel, which is Tara Tales United Kingdom. And don't forget my aunt's place. It's I'll give you the website. It's www dot innertransformationcenter.com. She's in Dunellen, Florida. And I think that's about it.
All right. Fantastic, Chris. Well, thank you so much for jumping on. Welcome to Spatial Slipstream. And I hope we can collab a little bit more. You know, I'd love to be on your channel sometime to discuss anything you want to discuss. And of
I
course,
didn't
you're,
get to do a reading for you.
oh man, you know what? Next time. We'll definitely do it next
Next
time.
time? Okay.
All
Okay.
right. All right, Chris. Well, thank you again. And we got to do this again soon, okay?
All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care.